Thank you for tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.
Call the April 8th Exeter Conservation Commission to order. Start out with introducing the members.
Michelle Crapo.
Valerie Fanger.
Andrew Koff.
Dave Short.
Connor Madison.
Trevor Matera.
Keith Whitehouse.
Sean Torres.
Dan Chartrand, Select Board Rep.
Kristen Murphy, Conservation and Sustainability Planner for the town.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, we have a tree committee report. Eileen?
Knowing you have a pretty darn huge agenda, and you have a packet which is full of
Yep.
interesting stuff and pictures of kids and what we do and the fun that we've had over the last 5 or 6 years. And evidently, we've had enough fun to become Tree City USA for the 6th time.
Oh, good.
Plus a growth award. So Liz McKinley from the Tree City Arbor Day Foundation was at our meeting today. We invited her and said, come and tell us what you think. And so that was kind of fun.
I've never asked, what is the threshold for becoming a tree city?
Well, there's an application process, and depending on the size of your community, you have to invest, I think it's $2 per resident in the community in protection and development of trees, planting of trees,
Maintenance.
maintenance, Unitil's budget, and Jay's budget is tree warden, and Kristen could have more than enough of that budget if she wanted it. I'd give it to her. And so you sort of look at that and say, if you've got enough coverage, that's one step. And then how many volunteers do you have? How many volunteer hours, are put in? Connections to the community and schools and all that. So you sort of write up a whole dog and pony show to say, this is what we do and this is why we do it. And, what kinds of things do you get involved in the community to educate? And maybe it's Alewife Festival or planting trees at Lincoln Street with Peter Walls or, that sort of stuff. So, and then you submit that, and initially, like the old teacher who writes things down and takes pictures and put them in an envelope. And they probably said, oh, God, here she comes again. So now we've moved up a notch. Kristen has kicked me up a notch, and we did it all digitally. But it's nice for the kids to have a connection. During COVID, we've planted 5 or 6 trees on Lincoln Street School playground and 2 more at Main Street. And then I said to the kids, it's been a tough couple of years, but when you come back, when you're in high school, and they laugh, high school, college, when you come back with your own kids, go over to that tree and give it a hug. See, I remember when we put this tree in the ground. And you'll see there's I think Dan remembers when we were doing one of the 2 trees at Lincoln Street 2 years ago. AJ and Liz were there helping. They delivered this tree that the kids had written a grant for. And so he's directing, put more water in the hole. Fill up this hole with water. Now we need mud. Does anybody want to mix some mud? Oh, my God. I don't know. I'm glad I wasn't their mother taking the clothes home and throwing them in the wash. But that's the kind of thing, they see those. They wanted a sugar maple because they'd lost a tree, and they were tapping maple trees at Lincoln Street, and it was right near the sugar shack. How can you beat that, So we started, I guess we were saying today, the reason we all got together was in 2019. Unitil had done a risk assessment and cut down 90 trees. And I was like, what's going on here? I counted up, and I said to Jay, what's going on? And we found out what it was, and we got together for coffee and said, we're going to do something. And so that's where it all began. I think it was at Anthony's Bakery. And so because we're your subcommittee and we're able to do that, we're happily not bogged down in too much bureaucracy. And So we're really still a tree team. We've got Greg and his staff at Parks and Rec and Public Works, who has an incredible team of guys that know how to do it. And they said, don't let anybody else dig those trees, for those trees. We know what we're doing. Okay. And we've got volunteers, Public Works, Kristen, who's incredible. The schools, when they're green teams and they get together and make suggestions or write a grant, and those kids move from, school to school. And so there's a lot of things that we're aiming to do, and one of them, with the benefit of the budget money that passed last year and the year before, we're now be able to do an updated survey, and we got volunteers. We do things like you see us at election time, and we've got a table out there, and sometimes we have tree cookies. They're very nice. But we ended up, talking to people at March election, and we got 14 people signed up to help us collect data for the tree survey, which you can do on your phone, and then it gets plugged into Kristen's office, and before you know it, we'll have a vision on the map of not only what trees we have, but what trees, is this a tree that's got a problem? Does it need to be pruned? Does it need to be taken down? Is there room for more trees? Did something come down? So we talked about that today, and we look at a goal of hopefully, maybe 8, even 12 trees. We're going to put new trees at the new playground that's by the swimming pool that'll be built, and it'll probably be early summer?
Early fall.
But the playground, when is the playground going in?
Oh, I think 3 or 4 weeks from now.
Yeah. So those trees at the edge of the playground, and substantial trees. We have some, you may have noticed little trees around town called Herbie's trees. They're elms that have been cloned from a tree in Maine, which was just favorite of kids. And so they were able to clone these small disease-resistant elm trees, which so if you see them with a little black collar around them trying to survive, there are 3 or 4 of them down by the river, and they survived a pretty good flood last year. So, but it takes a little while longer, so maybe at the playground, you don't want to have to wait until you're 30 to see the tree big enough to do something with. But also to make everybody aware of the fact that trees do more than just, provide some beauty. They provide shade, they provide habitat, they cool, if it were up to me, we wouldn't have so much blacktop. And we would drive down Portsmouth Avenue, and we'd see a nice avenue of bushes and trees, and I could get out with my jackhammer and straighten that out. So just call me and let me know if you need volunteers for that activity. But, so keep an eye out for people who are looking like they're doing, what was that game that people used to play on their phone and look for things? Pokemon? Yeah, I don't know what it was. No. But if they're doing that and looking up at trees and trying to figure out the leaf and the bark and something or other, and they're okay. They're just fine. They're with us. But we thank you for your support and for giving us a little time to give you an update. But if you ever want to know anything more, and if you're in the mood for surveying, and even I can figure it out, so I've moved into a digital world there. So if you know anybody who would like to do that, and it can just be in your neighborhood. You can say, I just want to do the trees on my street. And these would be park trees and public trees. So that's where we're at, and we've got more things floating in our brains to do as we go along. So, but we're happily. Oh, and we're hoping to plant a nice tree by the Rains Farm barn.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but at the Rains Farm Stewardship Committee meeting, Sally Ward was there and proposed a service berry on the hill where the benches are. And so we're hoping to talk about that and get approval to put that out there as part of sort of the bench dedication, celebration that the barn's completely done, when it is completely done, and to celebrate planting of trees.
Tag that tree, make sure you did that.
I think she was there today.
Oh, was she?
Don't mess with Sally. But thank you all very much, and unless you need me to help you with any, I don't think I'll be any help for the rest of the meeting.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. It's a great group of people. Everyone's really enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And I think it has made not just, I feel like town staff have always, Parks and Rec and Public Works have always taken really good care of our trees, but whenever there's an issue about trees or concerns about taking a tree down, having the tree committee really does provide additional leverage. So it's
That was interesting because Sarah Sandwich, who works for Unitil and has now moved up and up, she said, oh, that's how we all met in 2019. And she said, we have plans to do risk assessment. And before we do anything, we will be talking to the committee and to everybody involved. And we said, yes, okay.
Good.
That's how we like it, so.
Nice.
Yeah, not talking to us did not work.
Yeah.
That wasn't working for
Right.
anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and I gotta say too, that the guys from Public Works that are doing the planting are really doing a good job with it.
Yeah.
Right? That's always a big concern of mine, because there's a lot of people out there that think they know what they're doing, but really don't. And those guys,
They do a good job.
you can tell a couple years after they've planted a tree that
Yeah.
it's actually really growing because it was done properly.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So we have some vicious tree committee members who go out with a cultivator and go, what are you doing here? This mound of this stuff. And, but that's another thing that's hard for, we can educate the public when they're doing a tree, and we all make decisions about a tree. If it's a landscaping company that comes in, some people have, I think you have, you try to talk to them, that's not the way to do it. You shouldn't just pile it on. Oh, we're just doing what somebody told us to do.
Yeah, just say no to the mulch volcano is what we ran last year.
Yeah. Yeah.
It might not be a bad project either to maybe start getting a program together where you approach the owners of commercial properties
Very tempting.
and suggest to them that, they get rid of the mulch volcanoes because it really is impacting.
We could give an award for the company that does the best job. Look at this. They're the tree award.
Well, you
What
just
to
you
call
go
it.
up to Shaw's, say, in Stratham, and it's a horror show.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and it's all because everything's buried 6 to 8 inches too deep.
yeah.
So,
But we'll work on that. I like that. Right. Let me leave you to your giant agenda here.
thanks, Eileen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have a site plan review and wetland conditional use permit for a 6,200 square foot addition for Dade Auto Holdings Realty Trust, doing business as Volvo Cars of Exeter at 140 Portsmouth Avenue, tax map parcel number 52-108 and 51-1. Planning board case 25-2. I believe we have somebody from Altus Engineering here, and this seems like it's a pretty straightforward one, so if you could give us a brief outline, then I'd like to just open it up to the board and have them ask you questions.
Sure. My name is Corey Belden with Altus Engineering, and both Dan and Adam Exing from Volvo Cars of Exeter are also here tonight. Like you said, this is a very simple, straightforward project. Hopefully, it's a 6,200 square foot service center addition on the back of the existing building, and it's completely within the existing paved area. So there's zero increase in impervious area for the site. The reason that we're here is because, is this the, there we go. Back in 2020 or so, there was, they did a parking lot expansion over here, and with that project, they constructed a stormwater treatment pond right next to the site. What we are going to be doing is increasing the amount of flow that we send, impervious treatment that we send to the pond. So we're picking up the roof drains from the back addition and all of the roof drains from the new building, collecting that and running it over into the stormwater pond. So we have in this area, we have, I believe it's 165 square feet of disturbance in the wetland buffer simply to remove the existing 6-inch drain line and put in a slightly larger line that's collecting more runoff from the roofs to get more treatment in the pond. And then the other area is just, I wasn't sure if it would even really require it or if it was exempt, but there's a smaller area or another area. And I take that back. This area, that is 210 square feet. With this, with the regrading of the parking lot, we're going to be just reconstructing some of the pavement. And so this is just part of that pavement. You can see the buffer line that comes into the existing parking lot. So there's a small 210 feet of existing pavement in the parking lot that we're going to be reconstructing as part of the project. So again, very, what we consider minor impacts within the buffer. They're all within the 75-foot. Nothing extends into the 40-foot no-cut buffer. So that's, in general, the summary. I did want to say it's not part of the application, but Dan had mentioned that the existing Volvo facility has solar, and they will be extending that solar onto the new roof for the new addition that will be going on as well. So that's another benefit for the project. All right. So, with that, I open up for questions.
Where does the stormwater go on the parking lot today? There's the current, around this area here, it pitches this direction, and some of it just drains to the back. This side, with the new parking area, and this portion does drain, and that's what was collected in the existing stormwater pond. But what we're going to be doing is collecting all of this entire side and all of the roof runoff, and collecting that and sending it over. There's still, this back parking lot area, still sheet flows off of the back into the wooded area in the back. So that's what, with the footprint of the current, or where the building is proposed, that sort of just sheet flows today, sheet flows.
Shoot flows back to the
towards the
woods,
back,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And you don't have to increase the size of the pond because of the additional loading on it?
Now, we did model the pond. We have had we went out and did a review of the pond, and we have the design plans. What we will be doing is, it's pretty deep. I don't know if you've gone out there and seen it. It's a pretty deep pond. The outlet structure, what we're going to do is just raise it up a foot, and that'll give us a little additional capacity for treatment within the pond. So that's the only modification we, when we ran the HydroCAD, of the pond, and it still, can handle the additional flow that we'll send to it.
Those were my questions.
Connor, Trevor, Keith?
No, sounds good.
You guys?
You okay?
Yes.
We have a suggested motion here then. And says the applicant has filed conditional use permit to address the connection of on-site drainage to the existing stormwater detention pond. All remaining work is within the existing impervious footprint. I would make the motion that we have reviewed the wetland conditional use permit application and are in support of the application as proposed.
Second.
Any sort of amendments or discussion that anybody wants to have on this? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we have an event request for Rains Barn for a farm-to-table event in May. And I'm assuming that's why Ben's here.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ben Anderson, 66 Newfields Road. I don't think I've ever gone to a town meeting in rubber boots before, but I figured this was a pretty safe one to do that.
It's a good look.
But I was out working in the yard, so apologies for that. I'm here today wearing two hats, but primarily my own hat with the Word Barn, but I also serve on the stewardship committee for Rains Farm that has been looking for outreach events to bring people onto the property, which you'll hear more about later on in the agenda. In the meantime, I had been in talks with a really wonderful couple who farm outside of Concord, and one is a chef. They have a food truck or a self-contained kitchen, mobile kitchen, and have been hosting farm-to-table dinners on their farm, and had reached out to the Word Barn with interest in collaborating and doing something with us, and which got me thinking that maybe this would be really well suited for the Rains Barn as an opportunity to give people the chance to gather, to get them inside the Rains Barn, to see all the work that has been done, but also to see the property itself, to reconnect with the land, and also to bring some recognition to the property that it is town property, which I think a lot of people aren't aware about. So following the stewardship committee's process, I have filled out an application form and here for your support or to answer any questions that you may have. I should mention we are hoping to do this the target was May. We're in April already, so maybe that might be pushed back a little bit. We'll see, but the target was sometime in May.
Questions?
I more so have a question because I've never seen this application before.
Oh,
Is there like a fee that comes with this application that's required? Sorry, that's not it's a boring
Generally,
question.
The general idea was that a portion of the proceeds, if there were proceeds, would go back to the Rains Farm. It would actually ultimately come to the Conservation Committee, earmarked for the property, but there's not a set fee, as I understand it.
That was just a curious, not an insinuation or anything.
That
Seems
would be
like
the
a great
intent
bit-
of this event as well, to do that. But
Seems like a great event.
So how many people are you expecting?
so this event would be, the idea would be to limit it to 30 people. One long communal table down the breezeway that everyone sits at together, but limited to 30.
And how would you promote that?
Primarily through the Word Barn, all its avenue itself, through emails, website, social media, whatnot.
Good.
Not on a road sign.
I've driven by twice, and I'm seeing you rebuilding that.
Yes.
It seems like it'll sell out in a second.
I think it would be,
Yeah.
I think it would be really well received.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it's only 30, but is that their limit, kind of?
That was their intent to do something to, they're actually hoping, when we initially were talking about this with the Word Barn, they were sort of hoping it to be an ongoing offering of some sort and wanted to start it at 30 and see where it went from there. That's sort of where they're at with their own events.
What is the cost of the dinner going to be?
To be determined based on what the menu would be.
Rough.
Somewhere between $50 and $90.
Yeah, you'll sell it out quick. Yeah.
That's great to hear. The price point was a concern, so that's great to hear.
I think so.
I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, I hope I see the email early when it comes out.
All right. There would be a music component to it as well, of like an acoustic fiddle or some sort, I should add as well.
Great.
So obviously, there's other department, as the form indicates, there's other departments and coordination that has to happen, and Ben is aware of that and is working with Madison to get the appropriate health department permits, et cetera. And we'll make sure those get on file before the event starts.
So Ben, were you planning on having an outdoor fire? It says the fire pits, bonfires.
That was more for the kitchen, but in reviewing that form before coming here, I realized that they have this self-contained mobile unit, so it was more from the grill aspect,
I see. Okay.
which I don't know if they would require or not, but I just checked it off just to be safe.
Yeah.
A fire could be a nice component. It wasn't part of the original plan, but you have that great pit right there.
We do have a permit there for the year, so.
Oh, nice, awesome.
All right, then, I'd like to make the motion that, assuming Ben can secure all the required permits necessary for this event, and we have reviewed the event agreement and are in support of the application as proposed.
Second?
Any discussion? None? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's unanimously.
Awesome, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Next item up is the 2025 Trail Committee meeting. Sean?
Or was I supposed to be prepared?
You're always.
A little. I mean, I haven't been.
You have your
doing
own
that.
table.
Huh?
You have your own
Actually,
table,
I have
yes.
I have the kids table over here.
That's the old table we're serving alcohol at tonight.
Yeah. To keep them quiet. So I'm not entirely prepared, but I think that we should. I'll tell you what I've been doing and where I think we should aim for. I don't know if this is exactly a report like it's maybe meant to be, but
Anything.
it's so we'll have, I don't know, either May or June. I think probably June is going to be the time to get going on things. Does this sound reasonable? So maybe next meeting we ought to aim to get the list of projects together, and that'll require that it was you and me and Kyle, and then
Toby.
and Toby, and at least, and maybe a few other non-committee members,
Right.
since we can't take more than three, or we'd be having a meeting. So I did identify, just to my own self. I don't really have anything to show. I had a picture last time that was hand drawn on the map of the parks, the two parks, but basically identified at least 6 regions that have urgent would probably not be the right word, but, you know, larger needs, just out in the trails. The one that I've been kind of preoccupied with would be the Oakland's Inn road. I mean, it's a road, basically. And the trouble there is that it will need some material, I think. Trouble, if you want to call it trouble. So I have been looking at where we can get that material without having to pay for it. I was somewhat surprised to learn that a lot of people who have access to fieldstone actually don't want it. And so we can probably get fieldstone dumped there. It'd have to go in the parking lot, and I don't know the vagaries of that. But I think we can probably get stone as much as we want.
You're talking about down in the lower part, right?
I'm talking about Oakland's Inn, right?
Yeah.
And there's the road's probably, I would say it's probably 4/10 of a mile, maybe, something like that.
But
So from the parking lot off of Newfields Road down
Right.
to where it splits.
are you
Right
talking,
down
are you
to where
talking
it
about the
splits.
wet area where it's the trail splits?
The whole thing?
The whole thing, basically. I'm not saying we need to do a project that touches every square inch of it.
Yeah.
But I think that would be a nice place to start, because a lot of people go through there. It's very visible, and it's a bit of a nuisance. I think that deeper into the trail network, some people will care. I mean, we all know, either we ourselves care or we know people who will care about the deeper trails getting fixed up. But those could probably be done as weekend projects if we get, you know, whoever's interested in sponsoring a segment or whatever. And it would be very hard to get materials into a lot of those places, so we kind of got to use what's there.
Oh, yeah.
And for some of those, we may have to, we had an email exchange with Kristen seeing where we would need to get permission for. It sounds like most places, no particular permissions are required, but if there's a new or rebuilt wetland crossing, then it needs to get taped maybe, or do we have any
So,
advice?
so I think we were talking in terms of what projects would need to come back to the commission for review and approval. I would think maintenance of existing structures, that can happen. You have broken planks or something like that. That's totally fine. To me, it doesn't make sense to come back to the board and approve something that's already been there. But trail realignments or something of that nature, this board should have an opportunity to review and approve. In terms of crossings, existing crossings, Pete Richardson, a while ago, I believe, obtained state permit by notification approval for, I believe, all of the crossings, so it's very hard to tell based on the application.
Okay.
But should there be a new wetland crossing, it does require a permit by notification to the state, which does have fees.
Okay. Can you, for my benefit at least, can you explain that briefly? Because I'm not familiar with the
It's a pretty
process.
simple form and process. They just want your confirmation that you're following trail management, best management practices for wetland crossings. And then, you know, the location identified and a fee. And then you submit it to the state, and I think, Connor, help me if I'm wrong, but I think 5 days or 5 days afterwards, if you don't hear anything back, you're good to go.
Okay. Good, thank you. I'm reasonably familiar with the manual that they're referring to with that. I don't think there's any need for us to build ones that wouldn't be compliant with that. There's like square footage and types of materials and stuff, like, so vehicle crossings are, if anyone isn't familiar with the trail building manual that the state puts out, but vehicle crossings can be a little more difficult, but we don't need any of those.
Right.
And we probably won't even necessarily need to do any new crossings in the first place. I don't really see a need for that. So, what I'm meandering my way toward is that I think even though this is a lot of work that we'll probably end up identifying, I don't think it's going to be too tricky. It sounds like from what I'm gathering about, seems like we can get materials for free. Wood is easy, but in our discussions, we were trying to maybe cut down on the use of wood, especially pressure treated wood. That last bit's my opinion, but the wood bridges are not the greatest, because they take a lot of maintenance. Build with rock where we can, bring in a little bit of rock, a little bit, I mean, it's probably gonna be several tons, but that doesn't make the world's biggest pile when all is said and done, if we can get it for free. And then I have talked to a couple of friends who are probably known to folks here. I mean, one's Kevin Breen. I was at a kid's birthday party with him this weekend, and I was kind of like, hey, what are you willing to help with? And he said, he was one of the people who said he gets stone for free, and he's trying to get rid of it. So I was like, if we can get the committee to approve a dumping site, which that's one of my questions for today, in preparation for it says on the agenda, it says trail committee meeting, right? But some of this stuff would be good to sort of get in motion before everyone gets ready for June or July, I would say.
Well, in the Oakland's parking lot, if you're facing that trail, to the left-hand side, there's kind of an open area under the trees where people don't park or anything.
Okay.
That would be, I think, would be ideal to stockpile there.
Okay.
I will just say, when that material was put in initially, we got a lot of negative feedback. I think because it was so cobbly and
Right.
it took a lot to sort of settle in. So we might want to think about that in material choices.
That's my feeling as well. What we would be aiming for is, or this is again my opinion, opinions may vary. I think I would say this for any area, including that one, the approach that seems to work best is when you have stone water bars where needed, and I would say you'd probably need 6 or 7 water bars on that 4/10 of a mile stretch, mostly down by the culvert, right? Because the water's gonna flow into that pond regardless, and this is true a bunch of different places in there. But and so we don't want to drain faster. That's one of the principles. You don't want to make it so it drains faster out of the high pond to the low pond. But adding water bars won't change that. And then the way if done properly, like the way Shope did them, with little channel and a water bar, and that can be done with granite curbing, which another person suggested they might be able to donate. I won't mention it in case they change their mind or something. But we can get that kind of stuff, I think. And then the paving, again, taking after Shope, would be done pave style, which instead of using little river stone, like round river rocks, like what got put there, you just basically use field stone, and you're only setting them, the depth of the field stone. So you're kind of making, in a double track, you usually pick one of the tracks and do that one with slightly raised, basically pave, what's like in Belgium and stuff, field stone pavement.
It might be a good idea, would be, just for anybody who's not familiar with what you're talking about, on Aerobius, when you get up near PBR.
Yeah.
There's a good example of what you're talking about right there.
I did take pictures, but I didn't, as I said, I'm not fully prepared, but I did take some pictures of some of those places. Woods pictures can be disappointing, because they're like, what am I looking at on a cell phone camera? But we can maybe put together just a quick document or something.
Get a few photographs and forward them to Kristen, and then Kristen could figure out a way to get them up on the screen, right?
Yeah, for May?
Yeah.
Well, we could
Or
just probably maybe we'll just pop them into like you do with the other stuff, or is that appropriate? Yeah, so that's the plan that I saw in my mind, and then I guess the last thing that I can think of is for the bridges. It occurred to me, I know this was done in the past because I went to some of them, but there were companies that sponsored work days, and what they would do, because I went to at least a couple of them. This was a while ago, maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. But, I don't know, Verizon or somebody would sponsor.
Yeah, it's Verizon.
And they would chuck in,
Comcast
and other ones did too, I
And
know.
Timberland.
Because somebody from SIG asked as well.
Yep.
And I don't remember them putting in a sign, but I was asking if it was allowable that we can ask companies if they want to do that, to say that they could put a plank on the bridge, you know, something a little toned down, but like a plank on the bridge. Usually when people do a work day, they'll just put their plank in there. I didn't know if it was okay to have corporations do it, but
Yeah, I mean, NAMBA carves, you know, or routers,
Yeah.
that's a word, routers,
Yeah.
the initials in the board. You
Why-
know.
why not?
I guess it's up to the board. I feel like there should be some parameters around what, you know.
yeah, and again, just my opinion, but I was thinking this bridge donated by Sig Sauer or something is more than enough to acknowledge that. If the companies don't care, then why bother? But if it encourages them to donate $1,000 or something to maintenance, I think that's good for the town, so
Yeah.
then we don't have to pay for it.
Another example that might be a good option, so the scouts, when they've built kiosks or other things, they just have those small metal plaques that get affixed to the kiosk, so something similar to that, pretty
Yeah.
cheap to produce.
And that might be nice because a lot of the kiosks that were there are now missing, because they've just, not a lot, I mean, there wasn't that many in the first place, but maybe half of them have rotted out and either fallen over or are just gone, where there used to be numbers. So, the landscaping guys, I think, will be willing to, I might have said this last time, but will be willing to lend their, I guess it's heavy equipment, but, you know, light, heavy equipment to help move stuff down the trail, which would be hard otherwise, where you can't pull like a gator or something in there. We could at least get close with a bobcat.
And the deeds allow the use of vehicles to maintain the trails, so it's within the
Yeah.
restrictions of the deeds.
We should be really sure that when we bring in material, that we don't have any Japanese knotweed or some such. That would be a nightmare. I've seen that happen
Yeah.
before. So make sure we understand the source, you know, so we don't introduce something like that. That's a nightmare to get rid of.
All right.
So then it sounds like you all will meet and put together a list for the next next meeting packet. Is that right?
Yeah, that's what we talked about doing. I think it's basically on me at this point to try to get that organized, but at least those four people.
Well, I'll be around more this month, so I can be of a little more assistance.
Yeah, sounds good. One of us will have to take the lead on that. And I think we should try to, do we need to have approval from who do we need approval from to make these changes? Anyone, or we just say we're doing it?
I don't quite have my head wrapped around what the proposals are, but
Okay.
if you're maintaining existing stuff, I think that committee can decide to prioritize tasks and get it done. If you're doing changes to existing conditions, it should come before the board.
Okay. So it sounds like what we ought to do is put up.
I've got a pretty good idea of where you're coming from with that, so
Okay.
I think,
And when you said board, you mean the conservation?
The Conservation Commission,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, so we'll go on a walk and mark stuff up or something,
Yeah.
and then come up with a plan.
yeah.
It sounds like it's all pretty much there already, we're just rehabbing it, right?
Yeah.
Do we want
not-
more on this particular stretch you're talking about, the Oaklands Trail, or is that,
More details?
yeah, or are we okay?
Well, that's why I was suggesting maybe get those photographs, because the work isn't gonna take place
Right.
at least till after the next meeting. So if Sean can come up with some photographs, to show what he's proposing.
Do we need that, or can we just?
Well, I think,
Comfortable.
I think we might as well, because,
Okay.
you know, people aren't familiar with not everybody's familiar with what he's talking about. And it is kind of a cool way of doing it.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, it sounds like you've put a lot of thought into this, so I greatly appreciate, I mean.
Walking around.
Yeah, I mean, I greatly appreciate that, first off. It would be nice to see some kind of visual, because I can't quite get my head around it, especially at this, I'm just exhausted, I'm sorry. So, but getting my head around it visually and actually seeing it, I think would really be helpful. And especially knowing full well what a plan looks like and the next steps before anything gets dumped in the parking lot too, I think is important.
Yeah. Oh, the weather we're having, not much is gonna be happening between now and the middle of May anyways.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, so. All right. As long as we're on trails too, I just want to let people know that this past week, I had Toby post on Fort Rock Riders, due to the amount of rain we've been getting, that we want to close the trails down to biking right now, at least until things start to dry out. Because things are going to just get torn apart as much rain as we've gotten. And it's also been put onto trail forks, so it'll reach a much wider audience of people also, that the trails are closed due to mud right now. And then we'll kind of make a judgment call, hopefully within the next few weeks, when things dry up, to reopen. But I think we just, after I saw how wet it was and how much rain we had coming, I just thought it would be a wise thing to do, to close them down for a while.
And that's closed just for riding?
Riding and, did you put
Cautionary
something
tale
about
for walking?
pedestrians or?
I wasn't sure. In the past, it was just biking.
Yes,
I know
that's
there's been
what's
some
gonna-
debate out there.
I mean, I'm
So I
obviously
put
prejudiced
both.
towards bikers, but I think bikes are what are gonna wreak the most havoc, more so than a few people walking through there. So, if we can keep the bikes to a minimum, I think that we've accomplished most of what we want to accomplish. So.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Dave. It's a good call.
And a letter of support for a stewardship grant. Kristen wants to, well, why don't you explain? You're putting together a grant application.
Yeah, so I did go through, I was hoping we could use the grant funds to cover all of our mowing properties and then maybe reallocate those funds to other projects that have come up. But the criteria that they have doesn't apply to all the properties. So I focused just on the Irvine property. And so the grant application will cover the mowing costs for this year, plus the additional $1,700 and change that Breen Land Care recommended for invasive clearing on the property. So we still have a fair amount of Oriental bittersweet in the property, and he suggests going in there with the backhoe-mounted muncher, like the brontosaurus type thing, but the small version of that
Yeah.
to mow down a lot of those stands and disturb the roots to get the bittersweet stronghold sort of eased up a bit.
Okay.
So, so the grant application, as it's written now, just covers Irvine.
Okay. And you want a motion, well, I'll just make the motion, to authorize the chair to sign a letter of support for the Great Bay Protection Partnership Stewardship Grants. if necessary. Second?
Second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Okay.
We're on a roll tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. Okay, we've got some committee reports. Rains Farm Stewardship Committee had a meeting, and a whole bunch of stuff happened there, so I guess who on the committee wants to lay it out?
Keith?
Keith.
Looking at Keith.
No, I don't mind. I can. I can. Sure.
Yeah,
If you don't want
I
to.
can start.
Okay.
Sure. We had a meeting not this Monday, but the previous Monday, and we picked a spot for what we consider to be a great ADA spot. It made a lot of sense. We were walking around and discussing it, and put some stakes down. Kristen's gonna get DPW out there, and we're gonna see if we can get that all completed in a satisfactory way, so we can get the L-chip money to pay Stephen. That's part of the process there. We also discussed a spot for a pollinator garden, which would be on the Exeter side of the barn, kind of on a little slope that goes up that's got mostly poison ivy and stuff growing in it now, so pull that out of there and put some pollinators in there. And a further discussion about a pumpkin patch for Lincoln Street School with some details to follow about that. So it's very difficult after the school year has been planned to get a field trip going sort of quickly. So we're going to either work with the green team, as was mentioned earlier, to get it planted, and we already have got the seeds, and we're going to till it up, and that's going to be on the Newfields side of the barn, sort of in the spot by the road, so almost in sort of that sink area. So that's pretty sunny area, and we're going to plant the pumpkin mounds there with the idea that perhaps we can get the kids to come there next fall and take the pumpkins home. So harvest them, we can show them the barn, can perhaps go for a walk down to the graveyard, show them the cattle underpass, this type of thing. Then it's like 7 minutes back to the school. So that's the idea and if that cannot work for whatever reason, we'll just harvest the pumpkins and bring them to the school, and whoever wants them will have them. Because depending on the year, pumpkins are pretty hands-off. You plant them and they just sort of grow. You don't need to water them or anything like that, unless it's an extremely dry year. They sort of just take off. I mean, obviously, if there's a little more water, they do get bigger. So that was pretty exciting to be able to accomplish 3 things in one shot. Oh, and something else too was the tree spot with a tree up on the hill, Serviceberry, and that was cool. Was there anything else we talked about?
That's it.
Yeah, so that was good. So that's what should we discuss here?
So those are the recommendations from the Stewardship Committee to the Conservation Commission. It's up to the commission to decide if you're supportive of that.
Just a question, because I think last time there was some question about if it would impact the L-chip grant. Has that been worked out?
So we do need, as part of our match, we do need to have ADA parking installed.
Okay.
Still, when I initially explained the concept to Public Works, they had concerns. We're trying to get a time to go out there, and it's a little bit up in the air, possibly tomorrow. I don't know if you're available, Keith, but.
Sure, I can
But
be.
I won't know the
Yeah,
time.
just text me.
Okay. The concern was, so the design is when you come down the hill toward that sunken area, which is sort of a storm water structure, loosely designed stormwater structure, to kind of expand some parking just on the lip of that. But because it dips down, it might need to be graded so that, so it could, anyway, so that it works with the slope. We'll have to meet on site and see that that works. I'm hoping that that could be a solution that would allow us to conclude the contract with LCHIP and meet our
nice.
grant match.
Nice, okay.
The problem was on where it was originally put on the other side, the slope is just too great to get up to the top of the barn.
Right.
So if we put it in this spot that was picked, if that can, the hole can sort of be filled in and graded out a little bit flat in that spot, then the grade going to the barn from that side of the barn is fairly flat and made it
Nice.
much easier, much more accessible. So I thought that would be the best spot. Hopefully we'll get some help with that.
Do you just need one spot?
No, it's the spot, there's going to be
Four.
yes, right there, but that's where they're going to, that's where they're going to be.
I thought it might be two. Okay.
Yeah, so the occupancy of the building is going to be up to 99, according to the assistant fire chief, raised from 50. So
Double.
we need
Yeah.
4 spots for
So you
that.
need 4 spots. Yeah.
Be great to see that at some point, but
Yeah.
let's see.
Yep.
All right. Any kind of motion needed for this, or just a consensus?
Yeah, it would be helpful for the commission to vote in support, just so we know where everyone sits.
Was there any questions about anything?
I had a comment.
Yes.
When you distribute those pumpkins, remind those kids to compost them at our Laney and Lou recycling or composting
Will
that
do.
we do with pumpkins in November.
Yeah, will do.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Let's plug that.
All right,
Thank you.
sure.
We do another pumpkin toss. Who did that? What group organized that?
Ben,
Ben, and then, yeah, he had some
he had a friend who
friends.
built a catapult,
Oh, yeah.
and at the
That's right.
time, he was working at Prescott Park?
Yeah, it was
Yeah, Prescott Park.
pre-word barn.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was in charge of the festival.
yeah, so he had his
That's
crew help,
That's
and then
right.
we had lots of people with, tents and tables, vendors.
Was that a one-off?
I would love to do it again. I don't know where the trebuchet is. I mean, it's got to be somewhere, right? Someone doesn't make that and then it just disappears.
Right.
It's sitting somewhere in someone's yard.
Storm the castle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like on a trailer, I think.
Yeah.
It was like a trailer mounted thing.
All right, then, let's see. I guess I make a motion that we would support the proposal on the ADA parking, the pollinator garden, and a pumpkin patch, hopefully in conjunction with Lincoln Street School, and a tree to go up on top of the knoll.
Second.
No discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, then we've got back to Rains, a potential full moon hike, April 10th. 2 days from now.
How's the weather look?
I'm sorry, I'm not available this particular time. There are some pallets out there to burn for those interested
Burn,
in
baby.
hosting said event, or at any time. Those, I guess we'll take care of those. But anybody that wants to do some kind of event out there to get things going as the weather breaks a little better, it's been awful wet lately.
Yeah.
Certainly willing to help anybody who wants to do that. I'm going to do some more myself, but if anybody else has any ideas something different, something that is promotable, let's hear them, because I'd like to see such an awesome area out there, like this in the barn, you know, all good things. So anything anybody wants to do, let's get the ideas and float them and get them going at any time. And certainly can help with any of those events or ideas. Thanks.
Nick did put together a form that you could submit events, and event ideas for Rains. I'll share that with the group. But I kind of think we didn't get any advertising out. Maybe let's just skip April.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 10th is awfully close.
The weather has not been kind.
No. I think that's going to be the one nice day of the week.
Oh, is it?
Our representative or our organizer of Hike Exeter is not here tonight, so I guess we'll have to wait for an update on that. And then the Alewife Festival, Conservation Commission table. And it's also the 60th anniversary of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, 60 years
Wow.
this board has been in place, which is impressive. And
You've been here for 60 years?
60 years. Exeter was one, well, not the individuals, but the board in general. Exeter was one of the earlier communities to establish a conservation commission. And HACC did reach out to those communities to find out if there were any special events or celebrations that you wanted the NHACC to promote. So I thought maybe do something special at the Alewife table, or, I don't know, print up reusable bags. I don't know what that would be, but it seems like there could be something there.
Who is the longest serving member that's still on, Don or Bill?
I think it's Bill. It's hard because they both stepped off and stepped back on,
did
so
they?
I don't know. I'm not positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Don was on the select board later,
Right.
so probably Bill.
Yeah. But with the Alewife Festival, if there's one or two people that want to start planning the table content, that would be helpful so that we ensure that there's, not a ton of overlap between what other tables are presenting.
It might be a good idea to get somebody involved with Bill on that, just because have such a historical perspective. Because he's got to have been doing it for 20 to 30 years, right?
It's been a while. I don't know
Yeah.
numbers. And maybe the serviceberry planting, dedication of the benches to the long-standing members. Maybe that's the celebration rather than at Alewife Festival. We have the materials with all the names on them already.
Yeah, not only present members, but posthumous and retired. Yeah.
I think we identified members serving 10 years or more.
Right.
I guess we should look to see if there's additional names to add to that list, since we ordered those.
Yep. So, anything else on Alewife?
I mean,
So,
it's,
Yeah, we had a meeting, there was a planning meeting, what was that, a week or two ago? And I was remote, but I tuned in remote, like Kristen did a good job wrangling all the people there.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's good energy, but we need to decide. I know Valerie and you guys were here, so
Yeah.
what are we doing at our table? I guess we just need to, we
Yeah.
haven't decided what's gonna do. I've brought in that groundwater model thing from my work, and done that. I could do that again. I think one year we brought, there's one of
The
those,
watershed
is it a
thing, right?
rainscape thing?
Yeah, the watershed.
Watershed.
Yeah.
We could do that. I could get that again. I mean, those materials are
That
available.
would be great. Yeah.
But there are other that doesn't, just because those are, we've done them before, doesn't mean that's what we should do if you guys want to do something else.
No, that sounds great. Because what were we discussing that we were going to, we were going to contact RJ's about the ego. Do you want me to do that?
Sure.
Because Christine's my neighbor.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
For the battery-powered lawn
The
equipment.
ego, yeah, a lot of people were very interested in the mowers and the leaf blowers.
Yeah, I'm
all the
interested in
electric-
those.
Yeah, last year, so I thought maybe we could get those again.
And we have some educational materials already created around those.
Mhm. We have some of the healthy lawn information.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, and signs that if people want to, show their commitment to having a healthy lawn.
Oh, yeah.
They could put up a yard sign.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, why don't you?
Okay, so I'll
yeah,
get those two, and
yeah,
we'll have that.
Get those two educational.
We'll just need,
things,
I can also, I have a tent and table. I don't know if we have other tables.
yeah. I do not.
Do we bring,
Maybe Sean will
Yeah,
let-
there's a handful of tables, so if you have one, that's great, then it can
I
go to
can
someone
bring
else. If
Sarah's
you don't
stuff.
have one,
The tent would be great, yeah.
okay, wait, we can coordinate. Does anyone else want to be involved?
So I'll be doing it for prep.
You're gonna do
I'll
it
have-
for
I'll
prep?
have my own table, yeah.
Okay, and you're gonna do the oysters again?
I reached out to Nature Conservancy. I know they signed on, but it sounds like Brianna isn't available that day. So I might see if I could still grab oysters, because I think that's fun.
Oh, yeah. Listen to me, oh, yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
We used to string them
Critters
together,
are
yeah,
always
when I
fun,
lived in
right?
North Carolina, that was fun.
So I'm gonna see if I can set that up anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It's such a
Yeah,
cool way to
it's
display
cool.
their function and
Yeah.
water quality.
Yeah, yeah. That's good.
Okay.
Well, that
All right,
sounds like
so
a
we
plan.
can,
Yeah, that's a good,
we can chat or
Yeah.
email about it.
yep.
Okay.
All right, and the 15th is townwide trash cleanup,
They switched it to the 19th, it sounds like.
okay? And that's going to be mobilized from where?
I believe they're applying for a permit to have a table downtown for people to pick up supplies. But as with prior years, people can pick up supplies during the week from Public Works too. And it's just sort of they'll have a list of locations to target and gloves and bags. And then Public Works will pick up any tires or things that people can't, easily dispose of. As long as they know the location, they'll go around and pick them up the following week.
And do they bag the trash and leave it, and then Public Works comes and picks
Yeah.
that up, right?
Yeah, as long as we know the location.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay.
The Brentwood Road beer can trash
Yeah.
continues to be mind-boggling for me year after year.
I-
And I
Budweiser
need to
Light.
go out and
I see it all.
harvest all of the cans.
I just picked up some
It is
near
mind-boggling.
Brickyard Pond, and I couldn't believe all the liquor cans. It's remarkable.
What's that about?
It's people drinking and driving, check them out their window, and they have,
Right there.
they have
But
a
there,
spot that they
yeah.
like where they don't see cops or something, and they,
A bunch of them.
It's all Bud Light and it
Yeah.
accumulates slowly, so I do agree
Fireball.
with Sean's,
Yeah, the Fireball.
assessment.
Very, very popular.
that's the number one culprit.
I think that
My
would be a
area.
hilarious, so there, Allison used to promote these, like, we should be collecting some sort of information about this. We could have it would be cool to tally, like, what beer maker had the most cans on,
Yeah. You could, those,
All my
Bud,
kids, maybe we should just document and count the
Sort
the
them.
number and variety and
If nothing else, the
We'll give 'em
number
a
of bags,
prize.
for sure.
yeah.
that pile on Brentwood Road is right by a telephone pole. You could put a game cam on that pole.
Yeah, we've brainstormed, how do we go about determining, because I think it is from a relatively few number of people, maybe one
Kids?
or two.
Habitual offenders.
Yeah.
Yes.
We get thousands of pictures though, right?
But yeah, I don't know a good way to do it.
Yeah.
If others
Yeah.
do have other locations, please send them like
Maybe
that.
you could turn it so
Please
you,
send them my way.
I don't know.
Yeah, there's.
The motion of the flying.
We're gonna
can,
do
I
our
don't know.
little stretch of Brentwood Road, but there's further down.
Away from downtown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
past.
After Greenleaf and up that,
Yeah, even between
Greenleaf.
Greenleaf and,
Hartman
It's a
Place.
lot.
or-
Yeah, because it, because.
Hartman, yeah.
Because the
anywhere in
water's
the
there.
Garrison, that area's where I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And they just throw it out and it's on the roadside.
Yeah.
We gotta
Some of
keep
it goes
parking,
down
you
into
know.
Little River, there's
Into Little
stretches
River,
there and other little ponded areas.
Yeah.
There's cans floating right now.
Yeah, it's terrible, actually.
Is that event online anywhere?
No.
No, okay.
Why'd you
So-
bring that up?
Sorry. So if the public's listening.
We're working on it.
Okay.
Is it it's a town-wide event?
Yeah,
It's not a-
there's two volunteers that are pulling together the flyer and items, so,
I think Saturday works better than a Tuesday for
Yeah.
that event.
yeah. I agree.
All right,
It's good exercise.
Exeter High School Trail Day.
So this one, I'm hoping there could be members. Keith, I know you had said you might be available.
I am.
I'm hoping there are members of the commission who are interested and available for this. I had sent an email about it, but the Exeter High School has conservation easements on the property. And there's also a trail network that goes through there. It needs some minor trail maintenance. We had done it before in like 25 minutes, but I think the kids are really excited to talk to people in the conservation field, so I would love it if others were here so that they could kind of hear a little bit about your interests and what this board does. I did go and speak to them and talked a little bit about that, about things that I do, and we initially planned to talk about vernal pools, but they just had so many questions about like what do you do all day? Like, what's an average day? And it really generated a lot of conversation and questions, and I think that they're really interested in understanding how it's kind of abstract, how environmental fields and all the different jobs that are out there.
That's Saturday though, right?
It is.
You do have a really cool job.
Yeah.
And
do
you
have a
manage
cool
a
I know.
job, yeah.
I might
could see them getting
I might be
very
able to do that.
Did you tell them about the grant, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a-
Here's some boppers.
Like Town of Exeter's rainmaker.
It's only 2 hours, man.
Yeah. I think I can make that.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Is that 9 to 11 or 9?
9:30.
9:30 to 11:30. Sorry,
At the high school,
at the high school. Yep.
where,
That'd be good.
So we're gonna meet over by the tennis courts.
yep,
Okay.
Great.
Yeah, come pick me up.
Yeah. well,
okay. On the 22nd, the SST is doing a Morissette cleanup.
Yep. So Kyle is going to join me. Others are welcome, but this is an annual activity with the Seacoast School of Technology. In the past, we spent almost more time. Morissette's really in decent shape, to be honest. So the past couple of years, we spent more time just picking garlic mustard, which is pretty intensive. On the pathway from the YMCA down to the river, and then again in the skate park. And so that's probably what we'll focus most of the time on. And then Kyle usually takes a group through the trail and, does cleanup out there as well. So that's a great partnership with, again, another opportunity to meet kids. And some of them are the same students. I do this etiquette elf where you have to sit with them at a table and they have to make conversations and like ask you. It's so awkward. So it's always nice to see those same faces. Again,
You could talk about that.
Yeah. So
All right, and then on the 26th, it's another styrofoam event. And that will be at Public Works again, I believe?
It will be, so save your styrofoam and bring it out there.
I got a big bag of it.
That's fantastic.
9 to 11? Okay.
Yep,
'Cause I-
9 to 11,
I bought
another
them.
short window, just so that we can then trek it up to Guilford. Keith has offered to help with transport again, so that's about 10 bags that carries. And because we opened it up this time to broader than just the town of Exeter, it's open to any community. I'm planning as a backup to rent a box truck. Public Works, though, wanted us to also use their, they have a chipper body truck, so they wanted us to prioritize using that first. And they'll hold on to it and drop it off on a weekday. So, so
So-
I'll sort of gauge as the day goes on, how quick, or as an hour goes on, how quickly we're filling up, and I'll reserve a truck anyway.
I think we could get 4 in my truck, too, which we
Oh.
did not do last time. We put
Okay.
1 in there.
Right,
So,
okay.
We
Good.
could get as many as, I think we got, what do we got 12, and then.
I think we did 11.
Yeah, 11, yeah, 10 in the trailer,
Mm-hmm,
1 in the truck,
yeah.
so we could get 3 more.
But we also broke them down a lot smaller, and they're hoping we'll keep them kind of in larger chunks, because it's easier to feed the machine.
That's what they said?
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, so we should break it up less.
Yeah, do a little less breaking up.
Well, that means we definitely will need another vehicle
Yeah.
if the
Yeah,
the,
that's a key.
past is any
Yeah,
indication of the future.
So it's like, keep it 3 feet and under.
Nothing more than 3.
Nothing more. I'll confirm the width before that day, but I think it was 3
Interesting.
feet.
So like the,
Just
lo-
because they're feeding smaller and smaller pieces.
like the load Keith took up there, just for an idea of what this machine does, what, does it melt it down or crush it?
So it heats it, and in that heating process, it gets rid of all the air, because it's the expanded poly.
So it'll take everything he brings up and put it into what volume cube?
You have the
I know, the graphic that's in my head is, if you imagine a big Mack truck full, that would condense down to, I think it was like a pallet full, like a, maybe
3 by
a
3
little
by
bit.
3
Yeah.
3 by 3 or 3 by
Yeah.
4.
or 4 by 4.
Wow.
And then that's resold
It's
and
resold.
reused?
It's resold, so there's a company that we're hoping to partner, well, yes, it's resold and used for stiff foam board insulation. There's other uses, but that's the company that we're
Used in
hoping to work.
construction, right?
Yeah, cool.
And so I've been working on the grant application for that. As you know, the densifier passed at town meeting. And it's just, I'm hoping that we'll be very successful. The grant application from Guilford is amazing. So she just dumped all of that for me, and just tweaking what she has.
Change costs.
But she really knocked it out of the park with data and facts and figures and how many communities she can support. And so I'm really hopeful.
Great. And we would be the second community that happens.
We would be, yeah,
Yeah.
Wow,
In New
that'd be
Hampshire.
great.
in New Hampshire.
Yeah, so our last meeting was on the night of voting night, so we haven't
Oh.
actually met after that, so.
Okay, yeah,
good. We got
it was supported by, I think, like
Wide margin.
76% of the voters
It was very
voted
close.
in support, which is amazing and fantastic. We needed 60 because it was a funding warrant article. That is, as it was stated in the warrant article, contingent on getting the $50,000 grant application. So that's great.
And the grant application is not a federal grant, right?
It's not a federal grant. It's actually provided by the food packaging industry.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
So a certain
That would be another,
executive branch can't stop us.
right.
no.
that would be another good item on this 60th anniversary promotion. Not only things that have happened in the past, but things that are moving forward in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
future. You know, even just a photograph of it and what it can do.
Hopefully, maybe
Yeah.
it'll be up and running by then.
Probably not. On the 31st, we've got Great Bay Trout Unlimited River Festival at the YMCA.
So I had someone from Great Bay Trout Unlimited reach out to me. They are planning a river festival on the YMC property in collaboration with the Y. Their plan is a cleanup of the Morissette property, but because it's adults doing this, we identified that we've had cinder blocks and tires in that section of river for a really long time. And so they all have waders, so they're gonna go and help clean up the actual river, which is fantastic. That's something obviously we can't do with the students. So they wanted to know if they can promote this as a joint project with the Conservation Commission. I told them I can't imagine there's resistance to that, but I would need to talk to you all. So this is me talking to you all about that.
No, it's
And then the other part of it is after the cleanup is tabling at the event. They're interested in if the Conservation Commission wants to have a table. That's another opportunity, and that could be for a whole host of environmental related stuff. We've got no shortage of things to share. And that is from, what time was it? 12 to, no. 9 to 12 to 4.
Oh, 12 to 4.
The tabling is
Right.
12 to 4. And I don't mind helping to cover some of that time.
Saturday the 31st.
But it would be great to have others. And if not, I'll just do it. So I guess step one is, are you okay having this be a partnership type of it promoted as a collaboration with the Conservation Commission?
I don't think anybody's against it.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
I'm not ready to volunteer on that
Yep.
particular day, but I think, yeah, we should move forward with it and hopefully someone will come through.
Have we worked with them in the past?
Never.
Or is it the first? I just had
I'm
to
so
Google them.
excited for this, for a
Yes,
whole
it's
host
bad,
of reasons.
but-
So then I was like, hey, you want to come to the Alewife Festival?
Yeah, we got the trout, we got the ale, we're full of fish festivals.
But
here.
my pie in the sky thing is, I would really love to do some sort of minimal passageway clearing of our river so that you can kayak, and I'm hoping that we'll meet some people who would really like to help or take the
nice.
lead on that, so.
You got a lot of tricky trees laying across it, though.
I know.
Some big-
It's
big
it's
ones.
very bad. It's
Yeah.
very bad.
Like from McDonald down to Gilman, kind of that
It's the
stretch.
whole, yeah.
The whole,
Yeah.
the whole
Yep.
river.
So it's not kayakable right now? I
No.
haven't been down there.
No, I mean, even years ago, before a lot has come down, you'd have to portage pretty regularly,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it was manageable. Now, it would be tough,
It's even
but.
worse.
So what would have to happen to make it navigable?
So there are rules around it.
Right.
You are allowed to remove sections of trees to provide a passageway, like notch a section to pass through. Any water impounded behind it needs to be released slowly so that there's no erosion. Any material cut needs to be removed out of the river.
It's a big, I mean,
It's
That sounds
there-
hard.
there's
not
trees
easy.
like this, and you'd be standing in a boat with a chainsaw trying to cut them.
Though
I wouldn't be.
Though, though I will say, in the summer months,
We'll call it
August, the water level is very low, and a lot of these are high and dry.
Well,
So,
then they're really high. It's,
so maybe it's a multiple, as the water level goes down.
Keep notching it, yeah.
I've looked at it, and it's not only a monumental undertaking, it's a very dangerous one too,
I
It sounds
know.
like you might need cranes.
Yeah.
if you can get it to the locations even.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I
problem
don't know
is
how you
there's
would-
no setup locations
There's
for
no way
that.
to, yeah,
But
get
the
it.
rumor has it, there used to be a team of guys who would get into a motorboat and they would go back and forth and keep the river
Well, maybe
passable.
maybe this trout organization.
Knows of somebody, yeah.
And they got a couple maniacs that they'll send out there.
I don't know, yeah.
Have a conversation on the
Yeah.
31st of May.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Don't you hate it when your lures get hung up on branches?
All right,
But but just to understand, there are rules against whether you can take full trees out. You have to.
Correct, absolutely.
yeah, so.
It's highly regulated.
Unless it's a
In fact,
danger
material
to-
in streams is encouraged. There are grants that will pay you to add trees to streams for fish habitat.
Yeah, yeah.
Like trout.
Like trout, that's a good point.
Sorry.
There's a hole in my plan. All right, sorry. Keep looking.
so navigation's overrated. Huh?
well, and we also now have other committee reports, but I think we've kind of covered all the committees.
Yep, just one item under that. The Energy Committee is interested in bringing window dressers back again this year. This was the window insert program, again
Is that still
targeting.
gonna happen? Because didn't the state just remove all the funding for energy conservation?
This would still happen. This is funded, there was a Grassroots Foundation grant, and then the Window Dressers is a nonprofit that secures funding
Oh, so they're,
separate from
Through like
energy
energy.
they're
efficient
not
programs that are
dependent
going down the
on
toilet.
state funding at all then?
New Hampshire Saves or whatever that.
Yeah,
No.
okay. We have some minutes from the 11th of March meeting.
Oh, the only thing I saw, I did attend the meeting, they didn't have me down there.
Oh,
Yeah,
So,
I saw, well, two things. Something about Sean and brides, and I think they meant bridges.
Bridges, yeah.
Sticking to the one bride.
And the other thing was Keith made a motion to adjourn the meeting, but there was no thing about a second or anything like that. That's the only thing I noticed.
Yeah, I think I seconded it.
Well, then, there's nothing about it.
We're still meeting from March.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It never closed it.
I'll just have him review the tape.
Yeah, it was minor stuff. We have a motion to approve the minutes
As amended.
as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. Unanimous? And do we have the big motion? I make a motion to
Next
adjourn.
meeting, May 13th.
What's
with the
that?
Next meeting is May 13th with the submission deadline of May 2nd.
Oh, yeah, okay. And other than that, I would make a motion to adjourn
I would second.
at 8:29. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting is
Thank you for
adjourned.
tuning in to Exeter TV. Exeter TV is the town's public and government access channels, available on Comcast Channels 6 and 22. Channel 6 is your channel. If you have an idea for a program, want to host your own talk show, or submit a film, we're here to get your content on television. On Channel 22, we bring you live and replay coverage of government meetings and other town updates. A third channel, Blue Hawk Media, is operated by SAU 16 and can be found on Channel 8, with all your school sports, events, and meetings. You can watch Exeter TV online at exeternh.tv, Apple TV, and on Roku. Find us on social media for extra content. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell to get notified about live streams and new content. Tune in to our platforms every other Friday to watch the Exeter Biweekly Report, with recaps of recent events, updates from town departments, and messages from nonprofits in your area. If you head to our website, exeternh.tv, we invite you to sign up to our newsletter to receive monthly updates about new content, upcoming meetings, and more. We'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch Exeter TV and hope that you tune in to our other content as well.